Picture a classic European summer. Long afternoons fading into evening, the shade of a broad tree over a bustling Parisian cafe terrace, and a pace of life built around walking and cycling. Then there is the reality of June 2026, mercury pushing past 41 degrees Celsius. Locals and tourists alike are sweeping store shelves clean of table fans and resorting to splashing in public fountains to find a moment of relief. The heat has brought physical destruction to the countryside. Thick smoke is rising from severe wildfires, tearing through the forests and vineyards of France and the Iberian Peninsula. The carefree months usually spent outdoors have vanished. Millions of people are now locked in a daily struggle to endure a relentless thermal assault. Look at this map showing the footprint of the disaster. These glowing zones represent 150 million people and $15.6 trillion in economic activity currently trapped under extreme temperatures. With thermometers hovering 5 to 12 degrees above seasonal averages, the human toll has mounted quickly. Early estimates link the June heat to over 20,000 excess deaths across countries like France and Spain. The severity of this toll suggests a growing gap between the current climate and European engineering. The cities built to survive the winter are now facing a reality their foundations were never meant to handle. The meteorological trigger is an omega block. High-altitude currents form a giant atmospheric wall, pulling blistering air from North Africa and locking it over Europe. Climate change has altered this system, making it hotter and stalling it over land far longer than in decades past. The continent is facing a prolonged, stationary dome of heat without any natural relief in sight. The danger lies in how European housing is built. For generations, construction standards relied on thick masonry and heavy insulation to capture and hold warmth through long, dark winters. This cross-section shows the failure during a heat wave. The heavy walls absorb intense solar radiation all day. Because residential air conditioning is rare, that stored heat radiates inward, unable to escape at night. Geography makes it worse. In northern latitudes like Germany, the sun doesn't set until 10 p.m. in the summer, shrinking the nighttime window where homes could potentially cool off by opening windows. The heavy walls that kept generations of Europeans alive in December are now converting their bedrooms into ovens at night. The stress extends to the macro infrastructure. Steel railway tracks are physically warping under the shimmering sun, forcing urgent warnings against rail travel. Inside the cities, public transit systems designed to lower emissions have become a liability. Without air conditioning, crowded metro cars turn into unventilated metal tubes during the daily commute. The grid itself is faltering. Right as millions plug in electric fans and cooling demand spikes, massive nuclear power plants in France are being forced to scale back their electricity output. Nuclear reactors rely on nearby rivers to cool their internal systems, but with riverbeds cracking and the remaining water absorbing so much solar heat, the water is too warm to safely regulate the plants. The result is a cascade of failing systems. Hundreds of schools shut their doors, while UK hospitals declare critical incidents due to extreme indoor temperatures. The hotter the environment gets, the less capacity Europe has to generate the power needed to keep its citizens safe. For decades, cities like Amsterdam and Paris have been the gold standard for urban planning, building vast, efficient networks dedicated to cycling and walking. But when the outside air consistently hits 40 degrees, physical exertion like cycling to work forces the body to shed heat in an environment that won't accept it. In these temperatures, outdoor movement triggers heat stroke faster than it burns calories. Those who can afford it are abandoning the outdoor public squares and retreating behind the closed doors of air-conditioned cars and private spaces. Rising temperatures are quietly dismantling the low-carbon culture these cities spent half a century building, leaving anyone without a car or home AC stranded in a hostile environment. Early reports attributed 1,300 deaths to the heat. Now, scientific modeling suggests the final mortality count will exceed 20,000 victims. This chart compares the data from the 2003 European heatwave against the 2026 event. As the bars show, the temperatures and projected casualties of this summer have eclipsed a record that once felt like a worst-case scenario. These weather patterns are no longer isolated anomalies that a population can simply wait out with a hand fan in an open window. To survive the decades ahead, Europe must now physically transform its housing stock, cooling its ancient stone walls and re-insulating its grids to function as the planet warms. They have to learn to build against the heat.